Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're reading part 2 of chapter 9 of Child of the Wind. Candace lay on the bed beside Bentley as the sun crept towards its zenith. She should have dressed hours ago, but she didn't feel like moving yet. A timid knock sounded, but she ignored it. She didn't care if it was a servant, the Duke, or the King himself. She didn't even care if it was Duncan. In her mind, everyone was to blame for her current predicament, so everyone was deserving of the silent treatment. The knock came again. She continued to ignore it. Eventually, whoever it was went away. Suddenly frustrated, she rolled onto her back and threw a pillow across the room. One of the two lambs bleated and dodged out of the way, but Bentley only looked at her with curious eyes. He wasn't at all intimidated by her temper. Candace sat up and rubbed his ears before patting the bed beside her. With a happy wag of his tail, he jumped up and rolled around the bed until he was completely under the light blankets. She might have giggled at the sight if she hadn't been so irritated. With a heavy sigh and a dark frown, she reviewed the events of the morning for what had to be the 5th time. Once again, she decided Jet was at fault. True, she probably could have at least put a loose gown on before leaving her bedchamber, but he had still crossed the line. The memory made her shake with anger, but that was better than trembling with fear. Another knock, this one louder and far more forceful, but she ignored it as well. It was probably Duncan now, but she wasn't about to explain her present mood to him. "Candace, open this door!" She sat up in surprise. It wasn't Duncan. It was Jet. Her throat went dry. "Go away," she called, voice a little raspy. "I'm not going anywhere," he returned. "Open this door." "No." She held her breath as the door rattled, but the lock held firm. He thumped on the door a few times, shouted at her twice, but she put her head under a pillow and tried to block him out. Eventually he grew tired of the game and withdrew. The nerve of the man, coming to her bedchamber and ordering her to open the door, after what he did. A thump came from the balcony. Curious, Candace sat up and rolled so that she could see the sheer curtains covering the balcony doors. Another thump, this one followed by a curse. Candace was about to climb off the bed when a form appeared on the balcony. She started to scream, but that scream ended in a strangled shriek as Jet threw open the balcony doors and strode into her bedchamber. "How did you get in here?" she cried. "Keep your voice down unless you want everyone to know I'm here." He closed the balcony doors before advancing on her. "And I jumped a few balconies. They're only a few feet apart. Ed and I used to do it all the time." Candace scooted back on the bed, trying to keep her distance. "Get away from me." He leveled a glance at her as he came to a stop right next to the bed. "You, madame, will cease giving orders and start obeying them." Her eyes widened. "You mean you want me to obey your orders?" It wasn't a question, so he didn't answer it. "Stop your screeching, any wife of mine." Enraged at his audacity, Candace picked up the nearest object and threw it at him. Unfortunately for him, it was the candlestick from the bedside table. Jet moved, but he wasn't quite fast enough. The heavy candlestick hit him in the arm. As the candlestick thumped to the floor, Bentley let out a threatening bark. The lambs ran for cover. Candace fell off the opposite side of the bed, and Jet cursed long and fluently. This wasn't exactly going as he'd planned. Candace, surprised that she'd actually fallen off the bed, tried to sit up. The covers wrapped around her legs, tripping her, and Bentley thought that was a great game. Before she knew what was happening, the dog was jumping all over her, licking her face and pulling at the blankets. "Bentley, stop!" True to his nature, the dog simply ignored her and kept covering her with his own unique brand of kiss. She couldn't get up, and she couldn't quite make him stop. She was quite stuck until Bentley was done with her. Strong hands grabbed her shoulders, pulling her to her feet. "Are you all right?" Jet asked, concerned. Enraged, Candace flung up her hands, forcing him to release her, and promptly tripped on the blanket he'd freed her from. Jet caught her, but not before she twisted her ankle. She cried out in pain as she collapsed against his chest. Jet lifted her onto the bed. "Now see what you've done?" "You don't actually think this is my fault," she cried, trying to breathe through the pain shooting up her leg. Just hold still and let me look at it. As gently as he was able, he settled her back against the pillows before moving to take her ankle in his hand. Pull your nightgown up a little. She shook her head stubbornly and tried to jerk her foot out of his hand. When he didn't release her, she squealed and collapsed against the pillows. Her ankle hurt and he wasn't helping. Since she clearly wasn't going to cooperate, he pushed the hem of her nightgown up to her knee, shot her a warning glance when she opened her mouth to speak, and proceeded to examine her foot and ankle. It's not broken, he decided, but you should stay off it for a few days, and it should be wrapped. I don't have anything to wrap it with. Her voice was still breathy from pain, but it was getting steadier by the moment. Actually, you do. Jet rose and opened a large chest at the foot of the bed. My mother keeps a small box of supplies in the chest in every bedchamber. Sure enough, he found the box he was looking for. When he returned to the bed, Kanash tried to scoot away. Hold still. His voice was a little harsh, but he was growing tired of her antics. The pain was the only reason she obeyed. Besides, the ankle probably did need to be wrapped. Jet had just touched her foot again when Bentley jumped up on the bed, jostling Kanace and making her cry out. Off, Jet snapped. Surprisingly, Bentley obeyed, jumping off the bed again. The dog then sat at Jet's feet, staring up at him expectantly. Kanace blinked. I've never seen him do that. He doesn't listen to anyone, especially people he's bitten. Ignoring the dog, he started to wrap her ankle. Does he bite often? No. Well, sometimes. It depends. The last words came out a gasp as he tightened the strip of cotton around her foot. Sorry, it has to be tight or it won't help at all. I know, but it hurts. I'm sure. He didn't look at her, instead focused entirely on his task as he asked his next question. Depends on what? What? Then she remembered. Oh. He bites people he doesn't like, or people who threaten me, and shepherds. He really doesn't like shepherds, or anyone who is standing in his way. He doesn't like to be impeded. That beast is undisciplined. A smile spread across her face. I know. That's the way I like him. Now he did glance up. He's a menace. With the last of the binding secured, he put her foot on a pillow as gently as he could manage. I know he hurt you. I'm sorry. He was only protecting me. Jet didn't stand, but he did lean back against the bedpost, putting a little distance between them. That much was obvious. Silence reigned for several minutes as they each remembered their meeting at the bluff. Neither one knew what to say. As was her wont, Kanace was the first to speak. Why are you here? In my room, I mean. I came to berate you for ignoring me, he muttered, but maybe you were right to. But why did you come in the first place? He didn't want to answer that, not when she was finally calm and not shrieking at him. Though he'd originally intended to lay down the law, he wasn't sure he wanted to do that. I wanted to talk to you. There, that was benign enough. And yet she looked suspicious. Why? Slowly, he reminded himself. Last night and then this morning, we may have gotten off on the wrong foot. I don't think either of us made the impression we'd hoped for. I know I didn't. After a moment of careful consideration, Kanace nodded. I think maybe I gave the impression that I was a spoiled and arrogant little bitch. Jet flinched. I dislike profanity in my women. I'm not yours yet. And just like that, she was back to shrieking. He hadn't even said anything. Maybe he did have to lay down the law. Stop shrieking at me, he demanded, rising to stand beside the bed. Or what? His eyes narrowed. Or I will take you across my knee and tan your pretty little arse. You wouldn't dare, she gasped. Duncan wouldn't let you. Mac has nothing to say in the matter, Jed assured her. You are to be my wife. Not even the king himself would question my right to administer a little discipline. Irritated and just a little frightened of the quiet determination in his voice, Kanace went to hop up from the bed. The moment her foot touched the floor, she screamed in pain. Bentley barked at the sound and leapt up on the bed, only adding to the problem. Jet grabbed the dog by the scruff of the neck and practically threw him off the bed. Once the mutt was out of the way, he gathered Kanace in his arms and lifted her. Only when he had her tucked under the blankets and her ankle elevated did he notice the tears on her face. "Hush," he whispered as he sat beside her and wrapped one arm around her shoulders. "The pain will lessen in a moment." She nodded and leaned into his shoulder. The pain was worse than it had been, but it was her own fault. More than a minute passed before her ragged breathing returned to normal. Even then, she kept her face pressed against his shoulder. "Feeling better?" Jet finally asked. Kanace nodded but didn't look up. "One minute you're threatening to beat me, the next you're holding me. No one would fault me for doing either. I would. If her ankle still hadn't been throbbing, she likely would have said a great deal more." He let out a heavy sigh. "Let's try this again. And this time, you're not going to shriek and I'm not going to frighten you." "You did frighten me," she murmured as she tried to sit up a little more, effectively putting a few inches distance between them. Taking the hint, Jet stood and moved to a chair on the other side of the bed. "I'm sorry about that. I went too far, too fast. I would like to say it won't happen again. The truth is you're too damned attractive for your own good. So it's my fault that you assaulted me. I'm not blaming you. I'm simply trying to explain. Seeing you there in your nightgown with a robe hanging off you, let's just say it was a sight no man could resist." "Maybe I should have dressed first," she grudgingly admitted. "That would have helped." Now she felt compelled to explain. "I've never had to worry about it before. No one cared what I did. I mean, Duncan didn't like me wandering off without escort, but I usually ignored him and did whatever I pleased." "Mac just let you run wild?" he asked in disbelief. "No. Yes. I suppose he did." Kanace frowned as she tried to make him understand. "I never had any parents. Duncan told me I was a foundling, that he had no idea who I was or where I came from. So there was really no one to wonder what I was up to. Duncan, as Lord of Kincross, had too many duties to keep an eye on me all the time, and his mother, let's just say she would have happily let me wander off to be devoured by wolves if that had been an option." Sympathy filled his eyes. "That sounds very lonely." "Don't misunderstand," she almost pleaded. "I had a happy childhood. Duncan made sure of it. It's just that I was perhaps a little wild. Probably a little bit unconventional. I didn't have many friends, and I suppose you could say I lacked any feminine guidance." Jet chuckled. "So you spent most of your time with your animals. I think I understand now." "Understand what?" As she spoke, Bentley hopped back up on the bed, eyes on Jet the entire time. The dog curled up next to Kanace, head on her lap, and ears perked toward the dominant male in the room. "Him." Jet pointed to the mud on her lap. "And them." The two lambs were hopping around by the fire. "And even that damned horse." "What about them?" she asked as she rubbed Bentley's ears. Knowing that he'd better phrase it carefully, Jet took his time before answering. "You're unusually attached to them. You call them your friends instead of your pets. You talk to them as if they can understand you, and you even let them sleep in your bed." Kanace blinked at him. "What's wrong with that?" "Animals belong in the stable, Kanace." This was said gently but firmly, so she would know exactly where he stood on the issue. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Though she usually used tears to get her way, in this instance the tears were very real. The quivering tears slipped down her cheeks and splashed onto Bentley's head. The dog looked up, studying his mistress intently. Seeing those tears wet her cheeks, Jet felt an immediate rush of guilt. "Don't do that," he begged. "Stop crying, please." She tried, she really did, but the tears only fell faster. Rising from his chair, Jet considered his options. He really didn't know anything about comforting crying women. He didn't particularly want to learn. But he'd clearly hurt her feelings, and that didn't sit well with him. He really should do something about it. Instead, he turned on his heel and made his way to the door. After unlocking it and glancing over his shoulder once again, he left his future wife alone with her tears. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this chapter, stay tuned for more tales of a romance. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.